Good morning. Welcome to your Thursday morning, early morning intuitive guidance. I'm Dr. Bonnie Nussbaum, America's kick-ass coach and psychologist, here with some wisdom to get us rolling again today. And I'm just catching out of the corner of my eye that it has this stars enabled thing. And I had read on the stars thing before, it was some way that people could pay you. And I'm like, I don't need to do that. People don't pay me for doing YEMIG. But all of a sudden here the stars thing is enabled. I have no idea. Big Brother's watching. Anyway, so I tested today to see if we were, good morning, Carolyn, welcome, welcome. If we were meant to continue with the work we've been doing in taking the war out of our words, the art of powerful non-defensive communication, or if we were meant to pull a card from a deck and we're meant to keep going with the book. So that is what we are going to do. So far we've talked about 6 ways that we communicate that messes things up. We've talked about the beginnings of what do we do instead. And today we're going to kind of continue on that path. Good morning to whomever else popped on. It's Mel. Good morning, Mel. Glad you are here. We're going to continue on that path with taking a look at questions. And we visited that a little bit yesterday. Good morning, Cindy. Welcome, welcome. We visited that a little bit yesterday with regard to the story about Mina and her husband having told her he had just about chosen to wipe out their bank accounts and leave her and the children. Good morning, Beth. Welcome. And welcome to whomever else has popped on, but your name didn't roll past, so glad you're here. And so we're going to kind of continue with the questioning line of reasoning. But before we do that, I want to pitch another little piece in there, or just couch it in terms that will make some of the questioning part make more sense. Good morning, Lisa. Welcome, welcome. With questioning, again, hopefully from yesterday's reading, you were really picking up what I was putting down in terms of how you question is important. The more neutral you can be, the more curious you can be, the more detached from outcomes you can be, the better off you're going to be. Is that easy? Absolutely not. Is it worth practicing? Oh, yes. So we're going to talk more about that today. But one of the things that I want to say is 35, 40 years ago when I was a psychologist in training, one of the part-time jobs that I had was working with parents and very small children, toddlers up to maybe 7 or 8 years old. And one of the practices that we had parents learn to do was description. So rather than questioning, what are you doing now? Oh, look, are you going to pick up the yellow block? You know, question, 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 which over time kids get defensive about. They don't want to be questioned, interrogated, right? Many of those questions could very easily be shifted to a description just by changing that lift at the end of our voice. So when the child picks up the yellow block, you say, picking up the yellow block. When they put it on top of the red one, putting it on top of the red one, you're merely describing what they're doing. Sounds ridiculous, right? It is an amazing tool because they feel seen. They feel seen. The same with some of this stuff. As I'm reading her things about questioning, keep in mind, would there be a way to do this more as description as opposed to the question? Especially if you're struggling with, how do I ask this question non-defensively? You might find it's easier to do a description of what you're noticing non-defensively than the question. But we'll see what you think as we go here, all right? So that's just a little added aside here. So we're going to be on page 87. We're under the part that is called function, gathering up information. Gathering up information. So again, even that title lets us know we need to not be going into conversations loaded for bear. Like we already know what's going on and we're going to pin that person against the wall with what we know. We need to be going into it open. I wonder what this is about. I wonder what this is about. Not assuming that we know what it's about. It must mean he's going to break up with me, instead of, it could be he's having a bad day. You just happen to be present. Let's see where we're going. The natural function of a non-defensive question is simply to draw people out so they will be willing to provide accurate information. Think about that. That's the function of the non-defensive question, to gather information. So if we say, "What were you thinking?" that's not a non-defensive question. If we say, I would maybe pose that one more as a statement. Tell me what your thought process was on that. See if they, well, here's what I thought. It obviously didn't work, but they could be maybe very forthcoming about why they did what they did. Okay? The question is a data collection tool. Hear that. The question is a data collection tool. We've messed it up and turned it into all kinds of other things, including interrogatory, pinning someone against the wall. But it's really meant to be for data collection. And the more neutral we can be, the better the data we get. Okay? A non-defensive question helps people crystallize what they think, feel, and believe. It enables them to clarify their position to themselves and to us. And oftentimes, have you not had it happen where when someone speaks something out loud, then they'll go, "Yeah, that really was dumb," or "That sounds ridiculous when I say it, but when it was just in my head." So then you can start cutting people some slack, okay? We ask, I think, far too few questions. Well, far too few non-defensive questions. Yeah, yes, very much like motivational interviewing, absolutely. And when someone comes up with a good idea, oftentimes it morphs in many amazing ways. I think back about, what was that, early 1980s, I think it was. I learned thought field therapy, which was the first tapping protocol. Now it has morphed many times over and has become more refined and really good at helping people release anxiety, depression, etc., shift mindset, etc. So yes, same thing. Motivational interviewing would be, this would be a precursor to that. Yeah. We often react to what people say without ever understanding their precise meaning, their feelings, or their motivations. In a theoretical armchair fashion, we may know we have to find out what another person means before we respond, but in the moment, we bypass most of our opportunities to ask questions, either because we fear being invasive or because we assume that the other person's meaning is obvious. Both of those are a problem, right? If we assume that they're going to think we're picking too much, or we're, asking too many questions, or you're nagging, or whatever, then we don't ask the question. And if we assume that we know what they're thinking, marital partners are horrible for this. Doing marital therapy for many, many years, it was amazing how often a partner misperceived their partner. So don't think you're reading minds, because it isn't working very well, okay? Then the next part of the book is where it was talking about the woman named Rhonda, who, when Sharon, the author, was giving a talk, Rhonda asked about, wasn't this like charm school? And Sharon had a reaction to that. She managed to stifle her reaction pretty much, and then was able to ask the question, "What do you mean by charm school?" And when Rhonda explained what she meant by charm school, it was a totally different thing than what Sharon had been assuming. Good morning, Gwen. Glad you are here. And I might have missed a few others of you. Glad you're here, though. So what we're working on is taking the war out of our words, and we're working on asking non-defensive questions. Practice is good here. So I'm just going to finish the last part of that section, which I didn't read yesterday, and then go on with a little more information before we kind of wrap it up. When a person speaks to us, the meaning of the sentence is based on thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and assumptions that are far less self-evident than we often think. Or we assume they're referential to us, when really it's referential to the person who's speaking. He thinks I'm fat, instead of he's operating out of his own stuff, okay? Let's see here. When we respond with an inaccurate or limited understanding of another's meaning, we are often, without even knowing it, carrying on two parallel conversations. The twain never meet. Absolutely. Like I said yesterday, my sister and I do this notoriously. And we'll get somewhere down the road with the conversation and go, wait a minute, are you talking about X? No, I'm talking about Y. But we had this whole conversation that took place anyway. Our erroneous assumptions create much of the drama in our miscommunication. Ding, 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 ding. Okay? So, with regard to the charm school comment, if I had responded according to my initial urge, I would still probably have restrained my anger. I would have politely defended my work. Smiling through slightly gritted teeth, I might have said, well, I really don't think it's like charm school. I think using non-defensive communication can add a lot of meaning and depth to our lives. My comment would have addressed what I assumed Rhonda meant, that the process I was teaching lacked depth, instead of what she actually meant, that she was afraid she wouldn't remember it. So you can see how there could be dissatisfaction there in that conversation because you're not talking about the same thing at all. Depth versus memory. Had I responded defensively, I would never have understood or addressed her concern. That exchange might have affected the tone of the entire workshop and upset me each time I thought about it in retrospect. How many stories do you have that you trot out when you're upset? Well, that reminds me of when Joe said this to me 25 years ago, blah, blah, blah. We've got a whole cartload of that kind of crap. And I'm going to suggest to you somewhere down the line, there might even be some of those that, if you're able, you go back and you check out. You know, 25 years ago when you said X to me, I assumed you meant this. Do you think that's what you meant? They aren't even going to remember the conversation, but they might be able to say, no, I never would have thought that. Here's what I probably thought, you know, and clear it up and let go of it and quit schlepping it around after 25 years, okay? So the next little section is called Any Information is Important Information. When we ask non-defensive questions, we are, in essence, seeking to find out, what am I dealing with here? Regardless of the content of the person's response, we are receiving important information. First, we are learning what the person is willing and not willing to tell us. We gain important information even if the person avoids giving us an honest answer by denying some covert message. When Sally asked Marcus if he was upset and he said no, he continued to display body language to the contrary by slouching, scowling, and staying in an obvious funk. Unfortunately, Sally dismissed his reply. Her most important piece of information at that moment was that Marcus was upset and for some reason was unwilling to admit it. Sally might instead have focused on the information she did receive as her starting place in dealing with the issue. She might have begun by asking herself, why would Marcus deny being upset? What is his purpose in refusing to talk? Asking herself those questions are going to open the doors up, right? She might have asked him, are you saying you're not upset because you believe there's nothing wrong, or because for some reason you don't want to talk to me about it? Had she asked herself or him such questions, she could have been on the path to genuine curiosity. Instead, Sally got bogged down in her own issues, needing to control what Marcus talked about or not, defending her own intelligence, and insisting she could tell when he was in a bad mood. While it can be hard not to get caught up like Sally did when someone we love is upset and won't talk to us, our traditional approaches make the problem worse rather than solve it. Ding, 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 right? A sincere question can stimulate the person asking it to become more curious and open to understanding. If the other person's answer substantiates our worst suspicions, we're still in a better position to respond. If someone said, yeah, I do think you're fat, you're ugly, you're stupid, okay? But we're in a better position to respond because we know where they're coming from. And, in fact, I wouldn't necessarily buy that answer. I might think, they know that's a sore spot for me. They know that's the best way to hurt me. That's where that response is coming from. And then needing again to move into non-defensiveness as best as possible. Ain't going to be easy, most definitely. So Even if the person continues to deny having a problem, that is crucial information. I believe that making open, curious questions the foundation of a conversation, we can gain as much clarity as another is willing to offer before we respond with our own thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. Were we to ask someone like Marcus a question, I imagine that we are trying to see the size, shape, and texture of the landscape of his position. So we're trying to see it through his lens. We may not agree with his lens, but we're trying to see it through his lens so we have a better sense of where this is coming from. Our position may look like Kansas with lots of flat land and rich soil. His may look like California with a different shape and more varied terrain. Whatever we learn gives us the basis for responding as accurately, realistically, and meaningfully as possible to his current state of being. So let me see here. So here's the mental preparation stuff. These are the questions you ask yourself as you're preparing to respond to someone. Am I feeling sincere, calm, and relaxed? Be honest with yourself. If your answer is no, it might not be time to respond yet. Buy yourself a little time. Step back. Take a breath. I'm going to run to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Take a minute, okay? Have I given up the need to control how the other person answers? If not, if you're still trying to get a particular answer out of them, that might not be the time to ask that seemingly sincere question, okay? Am I willing to hear the answer? Am I willing to hear their answer exactly as it comes, not how I think it ought to come, all right? Is my question curious, innocent, open, neutral, inviting? Even just hanging on to those words. Maybe it's putting those words on a 3x5 card. So when you're talking to that person, okay, am I in curiosity? Am I coming from a place of innocence? Am I open to whatever comes back my way? Or am I trying to dictate how it comes back? Okay? Questions take us to new depths. So we're going to get to the Mina stuff here again. She says, although I have focused here primarily on situations involving conflict, because they are often of greatest concern to people, questions can be highly effective in almost any circumstance. Many of the conversations we pass over lightly have, beneath the surface, a wealth of information that is easy to access when both people feel open and cooperative. Even a few questions can bring us great benefit, whether we are at home planning to remodel the house or at work discussing approaches to marketing a new product. We can learn much more than we might imagine about people we know and love by asking more questions in peaceful moments. So, the next part is called Effect, Disarming and More. To many, the idea of asking a sincere, open question seems pleasant, safe, and somewhat innocuous, but not necessarily powerful. Yet, the impact of Mina's question about why Todd wanted to leave her and their children went far beyond anything she could have anticipated. Good morning, Mary. In innumerable situations, amazing shifts can happen for both people. Keeping ourselves open to receiving more information. The mechanics of a non-defensive question require us to shift our focus momentarily from ourselves to the other person, okay? So again, you're trying to step into their shoes. You're trying to walk that mile in their moccasins and get a sense of what are they feeling, what are they thinking, where are they coming from, what history might they have that's feeding into this reaction that I'm receiving. That shift helps us move out of our own feelings long enough to be receptive to what the other person has to say. So here it is. You ready for what was going on with Todd when he told Mina he was going to leave her and the kids? When Mina shifted away from her own pain enough to ask Todd about why he had almost left, she learned that his immediate impetus had nothing to do with her. A crucial piece of information. An incident where he worked had sent him over the edge regarding his long-held feelings of being trapped in a dead-end job. He was only 35 and couldn't imagine staying there all his life, but he didn't believe that he could change careers while he had a family to support. Mina felt overwhelming relief when Todd gave her more information. At the same time, she learned about ways in which she had contributed to the problem. Even though Mina managed money exceedingly well, she had many fears about financial security, in part due to a poverty-stricken childhood. Over the years, any time Todd had mentioned his job satisfaction, she had balked, saying they couldn't afford to make changes. As a result, he felt shut off from coming to her with one of the most significant issues of his life. Her question finally opened that door. So think about that. Here they are running these parallel conversations, old baggage creating additional problems in clear communication, etc. Her one question, what made you consider leaving me and the kids, opened up this whole wealth of information. Pretty interesting, huh? So, from what I have seen, most of us continue to swim around in our own reactions, reluctant to come up for breath long enough to find out what the other person actually means. Even when we are already caught up in our own emotions, we can begin to pull ourselves out by opening up enough to ask a sincere question. One of the things I'm going to insert here is, and I know we're getting long here, but this is good stuff, isn't it? One of the things that I'm going to insert here is oftentimes there's kind of an addictive quality to being reactive. We get a little bang for our buck by having self-righteous indignation, okay? So acknowledging that is important. One of the things that I have done historically is create stories in my head. Good morning, Brenda. Welcome, welcome. Creating stories about what something must mean and why someone did what they did. And it's very satisfying to run away with that part of my mind. But you can see the setup that it's going to create because I'm reacting on inference. It has nothing to do with reality, probably. And again, is going to mess up the communication moving forward. So here's one of her stories about going to buy tires and how that got triggered for her. A few years ago, I went to buy tires from a man I'll call George. Every time I asked George a question about the tires, he replied, "You don't need to know that." I felt he was insulting me as an intelligent woman, and I was furious. I walked around outside waiting for my new tires to be put on, fuming all the time. "I can't believe what he said to me," I said to a friend who was with me. "If I had more time, I would just take my car somewhere else. What is he, some arrogant jerk who thinks only men have a brain fit to understand tires?" This was not a genuine question. Yes, the self-righteousness. Yes, 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 yes. It's all about having to be right. And there's that saying, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And we need to look at it, that addictive quality to being right. We've vastly overvalued the being right thing, okay? And it destroys relationships. It really does. Then abruptly, I stopped in my tracks and I said to my friend, "Well, I guess I better practice what I teach." I thought about what question I could ask him and decided on this one. "Do you believe that I have no need to know about the tires I'm buying?" I practiced it a few times, breathing deeply each time before I started until I could begin to feel calm and sincere. Sometimes when I think of a non-defensive question, I have to work hard not to turn it into an entrapping one. It would have been easy, both with Rhonda and with George, to have been so sure that I was right about their intention that I could have asked my question hoping to catch them red-faced. In both cases, I would have been wrong. When I asked George if he thought I didn't need to know about the tires I was buying, he stared at me blankly for a few seconds and then said, "Oh no, it's just that I used to teach mechanics at the community college, and the guys I taught always challenged me and never thought I knew what I was talking about." When I asked questions to gather information about my purchase, he apparently thought I was like those students, not respectful of his knowledge and perhaps even challenging his level of expertise. Once more, the information I received was not at all what I expected. So, what I hope we do with this is take that proverbial step back. When a conversation happens, when a comment is made that is provoking to us, take the step back and just even ask ourselves, I wonder what he or she meant by that. I wonder what he or she meant by that. Just pose the question. That other part of your mind may run away with, well, obviously he meant this, blah, blah, blah. Calm it down. Calm it down. I wonder what he meant by that. Then you can pose that question. I'm wondering if you meant this or that. And when you put them both out there, he may say, neither one of those. I meant this. And again, it could be totally different. So here, she's assuming he's writing her off as a woman. He's assuming she's questioning his expertise. Neither one was accurate. Neither one was accurate. Oh dear, my internet's choppy again today. What is the problem with this thing? Anywho, sorry about that, Brenda. Hopefully the replay is fine. I don't know about yesterday's replay if people found that okay, because someone else said yesterday was choppy too. But I didn't cut off yet, which happened yesterday. So what I hope we do with this is ask that question. I wonder what so-and-so meant by that. Curious. If we're feeling a reaction, even just allow you have the reaction. Okay, I'm frustrated and I'm angry, but I wonder what he actually meant by that. Pose the question. So that's the only thing we're going to have you working on today. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff here. You can listen to it again and again and again. Definitely get the book. I think the book is amazing. So it's Taking the War Out of Our Words, The Art of Powerful Non-Defensive Communication by Sharon Ellison. And I got mine from my beloved thriftbooks.com, and I think it was like half the ticket price. So that's a pretty good thing. Yes, glad you found it good, Gwen. That's awesome. Yes. So have a great day. See you again tomorrow. Remember, you're capable of far more than you think you are. Bye-bye.